All right, y'all, welcome to another video with me, the Stonk Dad. I am going to be going over my watch list for the week of August 21st, I think is when that is. Yeah, August 21st is tomorrow. Excuse the kid. Oh, excuse the kid in the background. You're going to have to deal with it. I'm watching her and she's laughing in the back. So, yeah. Sit back and enjoy the ride, guys. I'm going to be talking about my watch list and kind of the things that are going on this week. Okay, so let's see here. So usually what I do, I go over what happened last week in the S&P 500 and then what levels I'm looking at going into this week as far as gamma exposure levels and everything of that nature. So last week we did bounce almost perfectly off of the 433 gamma exposure level. Now there was a pretty large level at 432 in which I thought that we were going to hit, but since we bounced pretty hard off that 433 level, I mean, I guess that's not a target anymore. But I will be watching to see what happens going into this week to see if we get a pivot back down for another leg down in the market. And I'll go over that in a second here. But we did bounce pretty hard off that 433 level, which was pretty cool to see. And then we trended up most of the day after that. Okay. So let's see here. Let's look at some of the levels that I'm watching going into next week for SPY. So here is the gamma exposure levels, the aggregate gamma exposure levels, which I look at almost every single Sunday to give me an idea of where I think the market's going to be headed. And that's why I thought that initially we were going to hit that 432 level, because we broke 440 and we pretty much just tanked Thursday and Friday. Go all day Thursday, and then we gapped overnight to the downside on Friday. So that 433 level, or sorry, that 432 level is still pretty large to the downside. So if we do get any more momentum back up, and we carry what we saw on Friday into tomorrow on Monday, we could pivot off the 439 level, which is a pretty large. It's not too large, but it still is a positive gamma exposure level, and then 440. So these two levels to the upside are still pretty large, because remember, when support breaks, it becomes resistance. So in this case, we're below 440 and 439. So if we do head towards those levels and we reject, we could head back down to the downside. And that's kind of the bias that I'm heading into this week, because of a couple other tools that I use to predict where we're headed. So those are the levels going into next week. We have we're pretty much in the middle of this ghost zone again to the upside, and we can pivot back down if bears take us there. So I'll be watching that 440 level pretty closely. If we break above it or we pivot off of it, we'll adjust once that time comes. So there's the gamma exposure levels. Let me show you what I look at to kind of give me an idea of what we're looking at here. So this is the weekly flow map. So this is all of the flow from last week. So Monday through Friday of last week. And these are the expirations that all that flow is going into. So this one right here is the 8/25 August 25th expiration. So you can see that there's a pretty vast difference between calls and puts here. There's 45 million in puts and then about 12 million in calls. So the bears are definitely leading the pack, to say the least there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at going into this week. I'm looking for a rejection off of 439, 440, and then to take us back down to the low 430s. But that can always change, guys. Just to make a note of that, that can always change going into Monday, depending on what the flow looks like on Monday. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to be looking at for SPY. There's a couple other things that are pretty important going into this week. We have Powell speaking to us on here. Let me pull that up here. We have Powell speaking to us on Friday. I'm not sure exactly what he's going to be talking about. Usually they give you a little synopsis. I'm not sure why he's speaking to us on Friday, but nonetheless, he is speaking to us on Friday the 25th at 10:05 Eastern Time. So that is just shortly after the market opens. Okay. What else are we looking at here? Oh, I do go over some unusual contracts. that are pretty cool to look at as well. Let me pull those up. So here's some high volume cheap leads that I'm looking at. FTCH, I do not know what any of these companies do, guys, so just remember that. FTCH, we have June 21st expiration puts, $2 puts, and those are like at 110,000 volume, which is quite a bit. These are kind of far away, so just make a note of that. But I will be watching those contracts to see what happens there. And then we have KVUE. They have ex-dividend date on Friday, so it could be a reason why we see this large volume influx in these contracts. But nonetheless, there's a high volume in the 21 puts, which is out of the money, and they expire actually this Friday. So just make note of that. It's ex-dividend on Friday, so that could mean why we're seeing unusual option flow into there. But that's what I do on my watch list every single week. I write it out, and I can show you exactly what that looks like here too. This is what it usually looks at. I just go over exactly what I just showed you guys in this video. So if you guys want me to go over a couple more things in my watch list, just let me know down in the comments. I'd be happy to go over a couple other things in these videos. But these are usually, those are just the things that I go through each week on Sundays to see levels that I have for SPY, unusual options, what we have going on the economic calendar. That's pretty much it, guys. And I take it day by day as the week progresses. So again, let me know what you guys think. If you want to see anything else in these weekly watch list videos in the comments, give me a like and a subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.